The nation of Cambodia is heir to the glories of the ancient Khmer Empire, which built the remarkable temple Angkor Wat. This empire lasted from the year 802 to 1431, and at its peak in the 12th century, the kingdom covered much of what today is Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, and southern Vietnam. The empire later shrank under pressure from neighboring nations, becoming what we now know as Cambodia. In 1863, the defenseless kingdom fell under French colonial rule. However, Cambodia gained its independence in November of 1953 after nearly 90 years of French authority. Power was given to Prince Sihanouk, but he was deposed in 1970 in a military coup, led by his own Lieutenant General, Lon Nol. With the backing of the US military, Lon Nol was made leader of the new Khmer Republic, while Prince Sihanouk and his loyalists united with the communist organization known as the Khmer Rouge. Meanwhile, east of Cambodia, there was a civil war between North Vietnam and the US-backed South Vietnam. Under the control of Sihanouk, Cambodia maintained its neutrality during the Vietnam War by supporting both sides. However, when Lon Nol took over, US troops were allowed to move freely into Cambodia to continue their struggle with the Viet Cong. Over the next several years, American B-52 bombers attacked suspected North Vietnamese supply lines and shelters. As many as 750,000 Cambodians were killed as a result of the bombings. This was proven to be counterproductive as it pushed North Vietnamese soldiers deeper into Cambodia, where they eventually united with the Khmer Rouge. By 1970, this communist organization had grown to over 700,000 strong. As their forces grew, they captured more and more territory. The United States pulled their troops from Vietnam in 1975, and Cambodia had lost its American military support. The Khmer Rouge took advantage of this opportunity, and they seized the capital city, Phnom Penh. They declared the year zero and began to purify the society.
Khmer Rouge was formed in the 1960s by a small group of Cambodians, leading by Pol Pot. Under the strong influence of China's chairman Mao Zedong, Khmer Rouge believed agrarianism could lead Cambodia into a modernized independent nation and create a self-sufficient economy for Cambodians. Before Khmer Rouge came in power, it joined forces with Sihanouk, previous ruler of Cambodia, to fight against Lon Nol's Khmer Republic. Many Cambodians question Lon Nol's pro-United States policy and the U.S. Air Force bombing incident that causes thousands of Cambodians to lose their lives. Due to these reasons, many Cambodians choose to leave the Khmer Republic and join Khmer Rouge. In the end, Khmer Rouge won the civil war against Lon Nol's leadership and took over Cambodia. Since Pol Pot became the leader of Cambodia, his main focus is to modernize and industrialize Cambodia, just as how Chairman Mao developed China. As a believer in agrarianism, Pol Pot's first act was to force all Cambodians out of the city and move them into the countryside for agricultural work. Pol Pot believed that agrarianism should involve hard work, which can produce more food as income to industrialize Cambodia. One of Pol Pot's requirements was to produce 3 tons of rice out of 1 acre of land. However, Cambodia was not an ideal location for growing crops, resulting in a poor yield of rice production. Moreover, many Cambodians died due to famine and harsh labor work. Other than agricultural work, Pol Pot also had to worry about enemy within Khmer Rouge. Another ideology that Khmer Rouge had was that loyalty towards Angkor was the only form of loyalty Cambodians should have. Anyone who did not follow this rule will be purged. Khmer Rouge developed many prisons for people who were not loyal to the group, and traitors will be sent to prison for interrogation, torture, or execution. Furthermore, people with knowledge, religious, or live in the city will be purged as well, because they went against Khmer Rouge ideology. Thousands and thousands of people were killed in the prisons, including Vietnamese.
Despite the powerful influences that contributed to the instigation and perpetration of the Cambodian Genocide, there were courageous individuals that went against the ideology of the Khmer Rouge and fought to save the lives of others. These rescuers and resistors did their best given their circumstances to reduce the impact, thwart the goals, and hinder the progress of the Khmer Rouge. These heroic individuals have been characterized by their tendency to value humanity and the fundamental nature and needs of all people. Additionally, rescuers and resistors often display personality traits such as autonomy, individualism, and individuality, as well as the ability to think about what is best for an individual based on the fundamental principles that are unattached to social values. These individuals are compassionate and empathetic, and thus their actions may go against the mainstream of society. The behaviors are often deemed illegal and are viewed as a form of deviancy. Specifically, in Cambodia during the reign of the Khmer Rouge, loyalty to Angkor or the organization was demanded and was to replace all their forms, and if a person failed to perform according to expectations, they were smashed as a method of removing the people that they deemed as enemies against the Khmer Rouge. Yet, despite of the life-threatening consequences, individuals went against the expectations of the Khmer Rouge. These individuals are characterized by a greater capacity for extensivity, which is a trait that combines a strong sense of responsibility for others, a greater attachment to others, elevated empathy for the pain and suffering of others, and a high internal locus of control. These are the characteristics that are found within the rescuers and resistors of the Cambodian genocide. Journalists such as John Swain, Sidney Scamberg, and Dirth Pran are just a few of the many people that opposed the Khmer Rouge and reported the accounts of the atrocities that were taking place in Phnom Penh. They risked their lives and safety in order to expose the atrocities that were taking place in Cambodia to the rest of the world. Further, members of the Vietnam government and the USSR aided in supporting the creation of a new Cambodian government, and the Vietnamese liberated the Cambodian capital of Phnom Penh from the Khmer Rouge in 1979. Additionally, the hundreds of thousands of Cambodians that fled to the Thai borders as refugees in search of food, medical assistance, and security aided in exposing the atrocities conducted by the Khmer Rouge, and all of these acts ultimately contributed to the end of the Khmer Rouge era.
If it wasn't for rescuers, we would not have survivors to share their experiences with us. Post-traumatic stress was a symptom survivors of the Cambodian genocide suffered from. It was caused by malnutrition, trauma, separation from family, and loss of loved ones. They also suffered from depression, anxiety, sleep disorders, and recurring nightmares. Anything that reminded them of the genocide brought back these feelings like they were experiencing them for the first time. Some survivors reported feeling guilty when they had food and their family members died because they didn't have any. Many survivors experienced memory problems and trouble concentrating on a day-to-day basis. There were survivors who tried to work as dishwashers, but the job reminded them heavily of the forced labor they experienced during the genocide. A widowed Cambodian woman reported being born in a secluded part of Cambodia and had little education before she married a captain in the Cambodian army. In 1975, the communists seized the Cambodian government and her family was placed into forced labor camps. Her mother, father, and almost 2-year-old daughter deceased from malnutrition. She suffered from malnutrition herself and was working in a forced labor camp until 1977 and lost her husband in 1977 as well. Her older children were taken from her and placed into forced labor camps and hardly had food to survive off of. 1 year after the Vietnamese raided Cambodia, she was able to escape to Thailand with her children. She felt hopeless and suffered from constant nightmares in her sleep. Being reminded of what happened in Cambodia only caused her to become more and more depressed. She expressed she has no guilt towards her survival and was only doing what her husband had wished of her.
Survivors of the Cambodian genocide have the responsibility of seeking justice for those who were lost. However, the answer of whether justice has been served for the Cambodian genocide is a contradictory one. As Pol Pot and 4 other high-level Khmer Rouge leaders had died without ever going to court, many believe that justice has not and will not be served. Had these leaders been alive, they would have been tried at the extraordinary chambers of the courts of Cambodia, known as ECCC. The ECCC was established in 2006 to seek retributive justice, to learn the Khmer Rouge regime's motives, to promote national healing and reconciliation, and to serve as a model for a more transparent and fair system of justice in Cambodia. The ECCC has indicted the 5 surviving leaders of the Khmer Rouge. 76% of Cambodians in 2013 believe that the ECCC will bring about justice eventually. A big part of this is due to the fact that the ECCC allows victims of the genocide to be part of the court proceedings. Victims are allowed to be actively involved and present during trials, as well as have access to confidential and internal documents. Additionally, victims are given the opportunity to submit a complaint form, whereby they can provide details about the harm they suffered during the genocide. Thus, victims are able to receive some justice by directly accusing and confronting the people responsible for their suffering. Memorialization of the genocide has been particularly difficult for citizens of Cambodia. Part of this is due to the strong prevalence of Buddhism. Buddhism teaches victims that they shouldn't seek revenge, but rather that they should leave justice up to karma. Under karmic law, carrying out poor or good actions in past lives will determine one's next life, and this is how justice will be served. Many Cambodians have been reluctant to teach and discuss the genocide with their children. This is probably partially due to Buddhist beliefs, but also partly due to the fact that many Cambodians believe that society should be more focused on the country's current problems. More specifically, since the genocide, jobs, social services, healthcare, and food have been scarce. These immediate issues have been deemed as more important to Cambodians than focusing on the crimes committed by the Khmer Rouge. Historically, schools in Cambodia haven't taught children about the genocide. In fact, the coalition government of Cambodia, established after the fall of the Khmer Rouge, agreed to exclude the discussion of issues pertaining to the genocide from all school textbooks. Since 70% of the Cambodian population was born after the fall of the Khmer Rouge, many do not know much, if anything, about the genocide. Despite this, the vast majority of Cambodians find the memorialization of the genocide to be important. Thus, programs such as the Genocide Education Project have since been established.